Hey friends, welcome back to this episode of the Confidence to Homeschool podcast. Today we're going to be diving into why words matter. The Bible says that the power of life and death is in the tongue, and I have learned just how important it is, the words that we speak over our children within our homeschool journey. So today we will be talking about 4 tips on speaking over your children. Welcome to the Confidence to Homeschool podcast with me, Kelsey Shalane. I'm a lover of all things Jesus, an exceptional wife to an exceptional husband, and a homeschooling mama of 4. Together, let's trade in those insecurities and questions of if you can homeschool for the confidence that homeschooling was the right decision for you. Through simple homeschooling techniques, growth in God, and small mindset shifts, we have the power to change generations and set our kids' hearts tuned to the Lord and a love of learning. So grab your lukewarm coffee, because who gets to drink it hot anyways, and let's shave off years of that how to homeschool learning curve. Hey friends. Okay, so today's topic is speaking over your children. This has been a, long, hard lesson, I guess I would say, because myself, I don't know that we were really taught to really pay attention to the words that come out of our mouth. But it's so super important, the things that we say, the things that we speak over people, the things that we attach to somebody's personality, I guess I will say. So this has been like a true journey for me. And now it's so funny because I was talking to my aunt yesterday, and now we talk about the fact that whenever we're having a conversation and somebody is speaking negatively, like it literally makes my body like cringe whenever they talk about the fact that, oh, my child has anxiety over X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, okay, yes, they may have the feelings of anxiety, which one of my wonderful friends said that is when fear and worry meet, is whenever you get anxiety. But there's always a deeper component to that. And I personally don't want to continue to let them live in a space where anxiety is being spoken over them, because that's a hard life to live. Like, I would rather live in a space where I acknowledge their feelings and then I help to find coping mechanisms. Like, I feel like that's where you make strong adults, is when you take all of the things from your childhood and you start learning coping mechanisms that are positive from that experience and putting things into place. I love giving my kids tools to use whenever they're feeling frustrated or whatever they're feeling. I love giving those tools to them and giving them options. And do they use them all, and do they use them all correctly? No, they're still learning. They're a work in progress. They're just like me. They're just like you. There's going to be some tools that work for them now that may not work for them later. But whenever we're really intentionally helping our children to build a relationship with God, I do believe that the Holy Spirit is going to show up, and He's going to give them, just like He does us, answers as to what they need to be doing in that moment for their feelings that they're having. But that was a whole rabbit trail. That was a rant for the fact to say that the words that we speak over our children so incredibly matter. So our point number 1, our first tip, is be very careful what words you choose to put behind a you are statement. I love this, and I definitely have to be aware of the words that I am putting behind a you are statement, because I am a mom. I am home full time. These kids are with me 24/7. I love them to pieces, but you are making me crazy is a statement that I have to watch to make sure that it's not coming out of my mouth. One, I don't want to be crazy. Two, I don't want them to think like mom doesn't enjoy me or whatever. And I want to tell you all of this today with like a grain of salt, not in the fact that I've got it figured out and I'm 100% perfect all the time. I want to tell you in a let's do just a little bit better kind of form. So one of the things that I want to say on the be careful what you put behind a you are statement is you can also use that for such a wonderful thing. If you are trying to grow them into whatever it is that you're trying to grow them into, say you want them to be a wonderful writer. Like, you are such a wonderful writer. I really love the way that you put your stories together. You are great at conveying your ideas. You are smart. You are funny. You are kind. You are strong. You are whatever that may be. Whenever you're paying attention to the things that you put behind a you are statement, then you are really able to get down to the heart of who it is that you're creating in your children. I think that we've talked once before about making a list of attributes that you would love to see in your children, and you can make it by child because each one of them are so incredibly different, and God's gifted them totally different experiences in life as far as maybe the same experiences, but He's given them different characteristics. So you can do it by child, or you can just have some specific things that you really want all of your children to have as far as being kind. Like I always tell them, it's so important to be kind. So whatever that looks like for you, the you are statements are a wonderful way to make or break. Like, that is a wonderful way to build them up and call the character out of them that you see that you want more of. Because whenever you continue to be told you are, it sinks in. Like, that becomes their persona. That becomes on who they are. So I dislike the words you are bad. I dislike it. I do not try to use that I don't use that in my house. I have heard that in my house, and I put a stop to it anytime that I hear my kids say, you're being bad, or you are bad, or whatever. Like, I try to put a stop to it immediately. So just be thinking in your life, what are the statements that you are hearing behind you are? You're being difficult. You are a pain in my butt, you are whatever. And then let's switch them from those you are statements of the negative to, but who are they in the positive, and what do you want them to be in the positive? Because you can build, they tell you can catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. It's one of those things. You are building their confidence into who they are whenever you are using those you are statements, and you're using them wisely. So that's point number one. Be very careful what you use behind you are statements. You can use them for good, or you can use them for bad. We just have to be making sure that we're paying attention to what you are using behind you are. Okay. One of my very favorite things that somebody once told me, I have a very brilliant friend. Her name is Kathy. She's wonderful, and she's one of the smartest people that I know, and I love her to pieces. So one of the things that she told me is, if God walked around and said yes all day to everything that you said, would you be happy with the outcome? So make sure that things that we're speaking over ourselves and our children are something that we want to be true. So if we are saying things like, my whole world is falling apart, or such is my life whenever something bad happens, or that's just the way that my world goes, or I am always late, or whatever. What is your statement that you're speaking over your life? Are we using powerful words for the positive? One of my very favorite statements that I say on a regular basis is, I always have perfect timing. And you know what? Somehow I do. Like, I always have God's perfect timing with me. I don't feel like I'm ever late, even if I am late by a couple of minutes, which I am not one of those people that has a hard time like being on time. But it's crazy to me because, like, I'll be 3 minutes late to jiu-jitsu, and lo and behold, professor shows up at the exact same time that I do. Or yesterday, we were going to the outlet mall, and we had planned to go around 10, and it was like 12:30, and it felt a little bit frustrating because we were running behind and this, that, and the other. It was just a coordinating of a whole lot of different schedules. And sure enough, it had rained from like 10 to like 12:30. We showed up. My mom was meeting us there at the outlet mall as well. She showed up right behind us. We stopped to get Starbucks because we were just trying to allow the rain to pass. And we literally get to the outlet mall, get out of the car, and it becomes bright and sunny. And had we been there earlier, whenever I had planned on being there at the 10 o'clock, the entire time we would have been at the outlet mall, it would have been raining and gross and nasty. But instead, we got this beautiful summer day. It was much cooler in Oklahoma than it normally is. And we just got this beautiful day and got to enjoy it. There was not rain. It was sunny. It was perfect. It was a perfect day at the outlet mall. And had that been my timing, it would have been miserable. But instead, I trusted in God's timing. So those are the kinds of things that I want you to be thinking about as you're speaking over yourself and over your children. What do you want to be true? Do you want it to be true that you live on God's time? Do you want it to be true that you always have? One of the other things that I love is I always have everything that I need. Whenever I am in the middle of doing school, there's times that I need a paper clip. Y'all remember we had a house fire. I have not went and bought paper clips. So sometimes it calls for a paper clip in the Good and the Beautiful to use as like a little spinning device on the end of a pencil in order to use for a spinning device for like these little wheels that they have. Well, I don't always have a paper clip, but I always have everything that I need. So sometimes we use a pen or a pencil instead. So that's one of the other statements that I absolutely love is I always have everything that I need. So I just want you to be mindful of those things that we're saying out loud and those mottos that we're giving our life, because there are good mottos and there are bad mottos. There are mottos that say that God cares about me in every single aspect and every single detail of my life, that there are those mottos. Or you could be saying, oh, pity me, woe is me, this stuff always happens to me, I always, screw it up, I always, whatever. Be paying attention to what you're putting behind always. So I just want you to be kind of thinking about your life and where your words are going. Okay. If you do make a mistake in what you're saying, this is going to go back to a little bit of psychology. So your brain does not hear the negative. So if you're saying, don't let me forget, your brain hears, let me forget. It does not hear the don't, it just hears, let me forget. There's a reason for that. You can really dig into it and figure out as to why. I don't have the reason off the top of my mind. It's just something that I have learned to incorporate into my vocabulary or I guess unincorporate into my vocabulary is the negative. And I have just replaced it with like, help me to remember. And I can't tell you how many times I say, Lord, help me to remember. But if you do make a mistake whenever you're saying something, so say you're talking about something medical and you're like, I just hope that we don't get sick. You can cancel, delete it. And that's so funny because you can teach your kids, cancel, cancel, delete, delete. And my daughter will say something like, something terrible, like somebody drowning in the pool. And I'm like, cancel, cancel, delete, delete. That's not what I want. Or don't break my arm in jiu-jitsu. Cancel, cancel, delete, delete. That's not what we want. We have no desire for a broken arm. So if God went around and said yes to everything that you had asked for all day long, would you be getting the things that you wanted? Would you be speaking a broken arm over yourself? Would you be speaking negative things into your life, or would you be speaking life into your life, kind of thing? So if you're ever talking and you say something and you're like, oh, I really don't want to speak that over myself, or I really don't want that in my life, it's as easy as saying cancel, cancel, delete, delete, and that it literally erases it from your subconsciousness to where it takes it back to where, like, you didn't say it, kind of thing. Like you take the words back, essentially, with cancel, cancel, delete, delete. It takes the energy away from it, all of the things. So you're just telling the world, like, that's not actually what I want. And so that will be something that you will incorporate into your words. If you're speaking to somebody and something comes up in conversation and you're just like, I didn't really mean that. I don't really want that in my life. So, okay, point number 4, speaking to God out loud in front of your children. Lord, help us to be able to be focused and get done what it is that you need us to get done today. That's something that we pray on a regular basis. Help us get done what you need us to get done today. Or, like I said, Lord, help me to be able to teach them. And then I take like a 5-minute break and I see what God has to say back. I give myself a minute of quiet, but I'm showing my kids how to speak to God on their behalf, and that he answers prayers, because almost always he comes up with, this is the way to do it, and I get a insight as to how to teach them. Almost always. But it's really cool to be able to speak to God on their behalf out loud in front of them and allow them to see him show up. Another thing, going back to, I always have everything that I need. That is such a wonderful place to show your children problem solving. We're in such a world where we just have to go buy. Like, we buy everything, and we're such consumers at this point in time that you never know where just showing your kids how to problem solve the things that you need is going to take them, kind of deal. Like I said, if we don't have a paper clip, we use a pen or a pencil. If we do not have scissors, how can you split this piece of paper in half doing school? Obviously, this is a school homeschooling podcast, but life as well. But if we need to split this piece of paper in half and I don't have a pair of scissors, you just fold the paper in half and you lick it. Gross, but it works, right? I always have everything that I need. So where are the areas in life that we can show our kids that we have, God has already provided the things that we need in our life? Do we really need X, Y, and Z, or do I need to run out and buy a new pair of scissors, or do I need to quit school for the day because I don't have the one thing? No, you're speaking over your children. You're asking God, please give me an idea as to how I can accomplish the goals that you have. And please take this wider than just a homeschooling thing and take this into your life as to how can I accomplish the goals that you have for me in a simple way that you've already given me. Because the Bible will tell you that God has already given you everything that you need. He is a provider. That is exactly who he is. He is a provider. He's obviously so much more than that, but a big chunk of it is also the fact that he cares about every aspect of our life and wants to provide for those things. So I just really want to help you change some of the mindsets and change some of the ways that we talk, and let's find a good way to be speaking into our kids' lives, our lives, and then let's just see the transformation that comes with it, because I promise you guys, from the 10 years ago when I had absolutely no consciousness on this subject to now, it's incredible the positivity that I get to live in rather than the negativity. I mean, we've gone through this whole house fire, and to be honest, I have watched so many people just say, like, how do you have such a positive outlook on this? And I'm like, I look for the blessings that God has given, and there's so many. I mean, y'all, we walked out the front door during a house fire. Not many people get to do that. I now get to have my house redone, and it is looking beautiful. We got new flooring, we got new paint. Like, it is absolutely gorgeous. And I know that God is setting it up so that I can allow people to come into our home and to be entertained and to tell tell them about Him. And I know that He's setting it up for so much more, because God uses every single detail of life for our benefit. He makes beauty from ashes. And so it's easy to be positive, and it's easier to have a more positive mindset whenever you are thinking about where the blessings in this. And there have been times where I have been negative. We had this second rental house that I just absolutely hated and couldn't stand, and there was a time where I got real negative about it, and then I would have to fight myself to be positive about it. And I would literally, that's whenever it goes back to getting your journal and writing down 5 things that you are grateful for. Like, I'm grateful to even have a house over my head. No, maybe this isn't my favorite place to be, but I'm grateful to have a house over my head. I'm grateful for the front porch where we get to go and sit, and it's beautiful outside, and there's wildlife, and my kids and I get to talk about the wildlife in this house that we don't necessarily love. But it's cool to be able to go outside and learn about whatever the wildlife is out there. We've seen lizards, we've seen snails, we've seen birds, we've seen all of the things, and we just play that into our learning schedule as we go out there, and we just learn about whatever is out there. So there is always a way to find gratitude, even in the storm, even in a bad situation, even in a time period that doesn't feel wonderful. All of the things. It is all in the power of the tongue, and your kids are going to be absorbing whatever it is that you're putting out. If you're putting out that this situation is awful, terrible, sucks, they're going to absorb it. If you're putting out the gratitude and positive words, they're going to absorb that. So if you want to influence your children and their way of thinking, then you first must influence your way of thinking in the words that are coming out of your mouth. So that is it for today's episode. Again, remember, the power of life and death are in the tongue. Our words are so incredibly important. And if you absolutely loved this episode, I just ask that you would share it with a friend, pick one thing out of this episode that you're going to work on to do better, and then share it with a friend. Have them pick their one thing also, and it can be same or it can be different, and you guys hold each other accountable. Remember, with anything worth doing, it takes practice. We're looking for better. We're not looking for perfection. So give yourself grace, give your friend grace, but make sure that you're sharing this podcast so that we can get this into as many homes as we possibly can. So I hope you guys have the very best day. Make sure to leave us a review and 5 stars so that we can reach others with this message. Have the best day. Hey friend, thanks again for joining me today on your journey to the confidence to homeschool. I hope this podcast blessed you with one more tool of success. If it did, please scroll down to the bottom of your screen and leave me a review. Share it with a friend. Just remember, confidence in anything takes practice, so let's grow.